All right, I'm here at Puck with I got Enam here, of course, and Ben Fidler.
Evening.
How you doing?
Pretty good, bud.
So, you host Puck every week.
I host, yeah.
Every week.
Pretty much, unless someone wants to guest host once in a while or something like that.
So if you're here, you're the one hosting.
Usually, yeah. I mean, I try to get other people to do it, but usually they're like, I'd like to do a real set.
Yeah, every once in a while I see Rick hosting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you're not here?
Yeah, Rick, Lou, D'Alto does it sometimes, so that's pretty cool. I'm always open to having people host. So if you guys ever want to host,
don't you think you get more out of it by hosting because you get to do like more than a regular set?
Yeah, but it's like different. Like you feel more in charge of the crowd and the flow and keeping everything on time.
Right.
So, like I've talked to Lou. Like one of the reasons Lou Missiano wanted to do it is he said he wanted to work crowd work. I wanted to prep hosting because you never get really like a pure set because you always have to start with announcements and like plug stuff for the bar and everything.
Right.
And then you get into jokes and you're more just trying to keep the room picked up and keep everything going, keep time, make sure the list is all set, stuff like that.
What does that feel like? That it's not really. You kind of have to make sure it's not about you the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
Is that hard as a comic to not be like me the whole time?
Yeah. Definitely got some comments from some of the comics that would come in from like the Philly area, because I used to do like every third comic I'd do like a 5-minute set of my own shit. And and they were like, oh, so it's the Ben Fidler show, and we're just all guest starring.
I actually, back in the day, I thought that literally the job of the host was just to say, here's your next guy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Joe.
Yeah, that's what I used to think, too.
I didn't realize that part of it was making jokes in between.
Yeah, you really got to kind of get a feel for the room, keep everybody paying attention. If someone's set kind of bombs, try to get up there and make them chuckle a little more.
Yeah.
And I'd say recently I feel like I've almost gone the opposite direction of the me, where I literally just do like, these are the announcements, ma, and then I'm like, here's your next guy, and here's your next guy, and here you... So,
I always like when you host. I think it's very entertaining.
I love it too.
The way
especially as the night goes on and you drink more and
yes.
more. It gets hilarious by the end of the night. We're just like staying for the whole thing.
Yeah, now that they're midweek, like over the summer and stuff especially, I can cut loose.
Yeah,
I haven't been having a couple beers to loosen me up.
Right.
So I think it's been a little more rigid the whole time. Like, and then there's that like, the end of any open mic, if it's been an okay night, always feels like that first date moment when you wonder.
Right, you don't know what you're gonna do. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Safe driving, everyone. And then people just sort, like music comes on and you're still standing there and people like slowly shuffle out.
Do you feel like it's on you if the night didn't go as well as you'd hope?
Yeah. I feel like you really got to set the tone. Like you really got to bring your A game and like make sure, because the especially at an open mic, a lot of guys want to try new material. A lot of guys want to check out new stuff, and they want to have a good room for it. So if you don't kick them off on a high note, they're not sure if their stuff's going to get laughs right away.
Yeah, I've noticed that every room, I mean, I really like this room, and I don't know if it's because of you and the other hosts here, the way it's hosted, but I mean, a place like the Comedy Cabaret, it's pretty painful. It's just like a dark atmosphere.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty dark here, though. I don't know.
No, I mean dark as in not like the lighting. Okay. Dark as in like it's just depressing. Okay. The cabaret is just depressing.
Like a just gulag of comedy where it's just like next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just assume that half the guys performing are suicidal or something.
A lot of them are though.
Yeah.
It's the final words before everybody pulls the trigger. They just light a cigarette at the end of their set.
Not to mention any names like Josh Jacobou or whatever,
See, that's the other problem with hosting this one and with my job. Like, this is the only open mic I get to.
Okay.
So I try to branch out and go to a couple more, and I've been doing that recently, but time being such a problem, I get real like in the groove here, and a lot of the same comics every week. We have regular people coming in. Like February's always slow for us.
So
you're a teacher too, right?
Mhm.
Where do you teach?
Should we say that on the show?
I think it's got to be super secret.
All right, let's not do that.
I know. Basically, what I was wondering is if it's like a big distance from here. Like, so you said you don't do other open mics, so is it? Do you have to travel to get there?
It's about 40 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a bit of a. There's nothing closer.
The distance is actually a good thing because it gets me away from the school and kind of the whole don't shit where you eat sort of idea. Like,
definitely.
The last thing I would want is a bunch of my students' parents to come in and see me talking about my wiener and stuff.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think Roger, do you know Roger Weaver? He, cabaret host sometimes. He's also a teacher, but I think, I've seen on his YouTube page some kids like, oh, that's my teacher. Are you afraid of that happening?
Some kids, like, some of the kids are like, when I say something funny in class, there's this one kid who'll be like, oh man, you should put that on Lawn Boys Comedy. I'm just like, shh. Like, these are secrets. I mean, it's inevitable that they're going to figure it out. A lot of the kids respect the fact that, like, you have to have a life outside of school.
Yeah.
And don't, just like they wouldn't want me to bring up, like, hey, I saw you smoking cigarettes at the skate park this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of, hey, you don't say anything when I'm not at school. I won't say anything when you're not at school.
That's good. It's kind of good blackmail, though, in case they ever bring it up. You'd be like, oh, what were you doing every day?
Oh, yeah, you clean living? Pee in this cup.
What about Lawn Boys Comedy? I saw you guys did a video about a sketch, or whatever you want to call it, like a short film about, it was like you were pretending to be magicians, like street magicians.
Oh yeah, that was
that
the
you
funny
guys?
homeless guy.
That was really funny.
One of the awesome things about the open mic here is we've been able to like branch out, meet a ton of other. I mean, we've met you guys and like the BA comedian guys, Dan King, Tim Ramis, Brian Six, and Andrew Spasato. Dan actually wrote that, and it's great because like we have these individual groups, and it's like I keep picturing in my head like a giant comedic Venn diagram, and we all overlap in certain positions. So he, Lou Misiano played Seth Mystique.
And, so good.
Oh, that was Dan wrote that whole thing. It was awesome. He wrote the another sketch we did called the title that we had on our script was "Let's Fucking Eat Kevin."
Let's fucking eat Kevin.
We've just been collaborating. We get together like every 2 weeks and just kind of do like a jam sesh, but with comedy and stuff.
Totally.
Ideas.
It's like all short film type of thing, sketches, whatever you want to call
Short sketches, stand-up stuff, show ideas. If someone's got like an idea for a pilot we want to just kick together, like just. Yeah. It's more of just. Like this room here, like I just want it to be a creative think tank where like people come to have fun,
Yeah.
Comedy's pretty high stress. And the chances of really blowing up are so minimal, but I still just fucking love doing it. So
just to have
that's the
fun.
point. Just
meet new people, and like you see all these different styles and stuff that go on stage, and seeing these open mics really, I love seeing new people come on, and I've seen like 4 or 5 comedians start.
Yeah.
And then every week they like build a little, and at first you're just like it's painful.
Yeah.
But then after like 3 or 4 weeks, like they start getting laughs. You're like, holy shit! And they start to, build kind of their set and their persona and stuff, and it's just fucking awesome to watch.
What was your first set like?
Oh my god, my first set was in college. I was home. I had just had shoulder surgery, and like a month before, my girlfriend had dumped me.
Oh my god.
So I was just like, my arm was in the sling, and I was just sitting at home watching TV all day. I couldn't do anything. And my buddy was like, fuck this, we drove down to, I'm from New Hampshire, so we drove to Manchester, to the big city. And there's this open mic in a little coffee cafe. It was like glass open to the street behind you.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like my first place.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
I went to, in Jenkintown, there's a place called, the Fig Cafe.
Yeah.
Kind of a hookah bar type of place, but same thing with the glass.
Yeah,
the
it's like you're
looking
at like people walking by wondering why a guy's standing in front of a crowd talking into a
microphone. That's
microphone.
so scary.
Very
It's like a rally.
I don't even like restaurants where there's like that. It's like I'm on display eating my dinner. It's
Yeah.
just very
Well, it was nicer
uncomfortable.
because I actually went on near the end of the night, but they didn't tell you, like you signed up, but then they rearranged the set list and didn't tell you.
Oh, that's
Oh
weird.
yeah, we've been to some places.
So
like
they'd
that.
call out like the next 3 comedians, and I'd been really enjoying it, and it was getting to the end of the night, so I was like, all right, chances are I'm coming up pretty soon. And all of a sudden the guy's like, all right, up next. I was like, fuck, it's me.
Yeah.
And he called my name, and just blood shot out of my nose.
Wow.
I was like, I grabbed a napkin with my good arm, like wiped it, and so I actually have video. I think it's posted on the Lawn Boys website. I'm like standing there. There's like a shitty camera recording, and every 10 seconds you just hear me going like.
Oh my god, you're freaking
Just
me
trying
out. I
not
don't know
to,
if I
like-
want to do this
So
now. I'm
wait,
totally freaked out.
your nose was bleeding because you had surgery or something?
No, I don't know if it was like, I think it was just nerves, and like my heart was pounding, and I got up and it just went.
Shit.
And it was like winter, so it's really dry, so my nose bleeds a lot
Yeah.
anyways.
Oh, okay.
But you can hear me, like I listen to that set now, and you can hear me like every couple seconds.
Ugh.
And then, yeah, that was a weird experience, man.
That's
Like
so
I was like,
scary.
all right, people are gonna laugh here, people are gonna laugh here, and I said my first joke, and got nothing.
Oh my god.
And then I just said this like after comment that I had written in there as like transition, and they fucking died.
Weird.
And I just went, all right, this is the rules. There are no rules. I
Yeah,
have no
exactly.
idea
You
what's gonna
never
happen.
know.
Yeah. Did you have like a whole idea of like what would get laughs?
Yeah, like I thought it would be like dit laughs, dit
Yeah.
laughs, and it ended up being like dit laughs, dit laughs. It's just, it's not the last
You
time.
never know what people are gonna be into, honestly.
It's like the
so
crowd
you just gotta
totally
do it.
depends, the
Yeah,
room that
totally.
night, you know.
Yeah.
The other comedians, what kind of mood everyone's
Yeah, how many
in.
of the crowd is
Yeah.
other comedians and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's like you don't understand the relationship of when the audience laughs, because you think of it in your head. You're like, I know what's funny about this, but if you don't say it right, then they
Right,
might
yeah,
not
yeah.
actually
If
get
your
it.
timing's off, or
Yeah.
like if you fuck up, sometimes people think that's hilarious, you know.
What do you feel about jokes that you don't actually think are funny, but the crowd loves, like crowd pleasers?
The weirdest part is like, ever since I was a kid, I've loved comedy,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't really laugh out loud as much. Like if it's a really, like Dan Cummins came here, and I remember after that set, like I can't remember a lot of his shit, I just remember I was laughing my ass off. But normally, I'm always watching them, and like, it's not that I don't think they're funny when I'm
No,
not
I
laughing.
get it.
Right.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's like, like I saw Bill Cosby, and I didn't really laugh because I was just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this guy's so fucking, like, if it's like if you got to
Totally,
watch
totally.
Picasso paint,
Yeah.
you're just like, wow, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, lots of times when I listen to Louis, I know he's like amazing, and I'm not always cracking up. I'm just like, wow, this guy's so
Yeah,
smart.
you're just like blown away by
Yeah.
like the topics that they
Yes,
take
exactly.
and how they make shit funny.
Yeah.
Like with Cosby, you know, he doesn't swear. I swear all the time.
Yeah.
I go blue because it's usually an easier way to get laughs.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that it's easier. I think everything takes skill.
Yeah, that's
But I
true
saw
too.
Bill Cosby recently. He's still good. I mean,
Oh,
not in
yeah.
person, but I saw him on Letterman.
Yeah. I saw something posted about that, and I
Still
meant to
really good.
Oh, I was so scared. He like tottered out in like temple sweatpants and a temple
Yeah.
long sleeve shirt,
Mhm.
and we're in this theater in the Round in Massachusetts, and he's just like mumbling. He's like, "Rah, rah,
Yeah.
rah, rah," and I was like, oh my god, he's old and crazy, and people just parade him around to make my ass
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to see one of my idols just like, and then finally you're like, is this damn microphone on? And he just,
wow.
and he goes into it, and instantly I was like, I should have never doubted you, sir.
Wow.
You are the king. It was so awesome.
Yeah, he a lot of people look up to him. He was in that
Yeah.
documentary Comedian.
Yep.
I saw. Speaking of like, you might not laugh at a comedian. Are you familiar with Bill Hicks? Do you have any opinion on him or anything?
I've seen clips of his stuff, and the only thing that I've really heard, like, he does the Jesus Cross joke, right? Like that's the last thing Jesus would want to see. Like if people were walking around with a sniper rifle, going, "Hey Jackie, just thinking of John."
Yeah.
Like raw shit like that. Like he didn't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
But then I heard when he found out he had cancer, he kind of. I mean, I can totally understand, like, you're faced with mortality.
For sure.
Yeah, I've been so out of the comedian loop too with this shit. Because with work and stuff, and I find the more of this I do, the more, like, I don't like watching other comedians because I'm always just like, oh, fuck, they're way ahead of me.
It might, I've heard people say it might rub off on them too.
Yeah, I'm so terrified. Like, I've come up with joke ideas, and my friends have been like, that's a, like, Bill Burr joke, and I'm like, fuck, I knew it was too good to be true.
You can't control that, though, because you don't know it's just because you thought the same thing, or because you heard it a long time ago, and it's
just, like, subliminally in there, and something reminds me of it.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't think I've actively... Like, I've been on stage in a pinch, and I remember Tim Ramis has a line in one of his songs, and I stole that verbatim, and I just looked at him afterwards like, Tim, I'm so sorry. Like, that just... I panicked. It came out like, fuck me. But at the same time, Tim was like, nah, man, like, I was afraid that I had taken that from you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, no, that is completely your original thought. I am a shithead.
Have you ever stolen jokes from yourself by accident? Like,
what does that mean?
Like, meaning, one time I wrote a joke. Like, I kept an old journal of me writing jokes, and one day I was brainstorming, and I wrote a joke, and then I realized, like a year ago or so, I had the same joke in my notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I've definitely, like, rewritten jokes and been like, this is new and fresh, and then, flipping back through old shit. I'm like, oh, man, I wish I had told this 2 years ago when I originally thought of it.
And also, so what I was saying about Bill Hicks, I was telling Inam to watch Bill Hicks, because you were saying you might not laugh at somebody even if they're good. And that's what I was saying, like, Bill Hicks, he might not be funny to you, but to, like, watch and like, see that he's smart.
I've never been too familiar with him. I've only heard other comedians talk about him.
Yeah, same with
and
me.
I love comedy, and I'm into, I have so many different, comedic idols and everything, but the only time I've ever heard his name mentioned was from them.
I think a good example of, like, the not laughing but having insane respect is, like, Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever I've chuckled and I've definitely laughed out loud.
He's just so smart.
90%
Everything he says
of
is like genius.
Yeah, 90% of his material, I'm just sitting there like, fuck, how did he think of that?
I know.
That's awesome.
He's like
so
another
good.
planet.
So original. So
everything.
So much. I felt really flattered. I don't know if it was good or bad, but I felt really flattered because my first open mic, I filmed it, and after one of my jokes, I heard a guy in the crowd say, fucking Mitch Hedberg. And I was like, alright, that's pretty good. Maybe it's too derivative, but it's
Was it the time window?
I said, no, I think I said, my friend asked me if I had any spare time. I said, I said, and I gave him some, or something like that.
Yeah.
Shit, what was it?
Well, it could have just been the delivery, too, but yeah.
I don't know, it probably sounded just like him.
Dane Cook was huge when I started, and a lot of, because I do, like, high energy kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, you're a lot like Dane Cook, man. I was like, fuck, that's not.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, that guy's funny, he's just like Dane Cook. I'd like to be like, hey, Ben Fidler's funny.
Yeah. Hey, that guy's just like Ben Fidler.
Yeah, that'd be even better.
Better.
Like, Dane Cook's a lot like Ben Fidler.
Yeah.
Plus, Dane Cook kind of disappeared, so.
He did. Yeah, he's definitely kind of off the radar at this point. Yeah. Who do you feel like you used to? How do you feel like you changed as you've been a stand-up?
Recently, especially, I feel like I've been writing a lot cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been going a little more observational, just like commentary humor, and I've been trying to step away from just like weird sexual trysts I've had or crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think crowd work, I actually appreciate a large crowd better because I just kind of hit my groove easier, and with teaching, I'm so much better at interaction and playing off people.
Yeah, that's definitely gotta help,
So a small crowd room, not only am I like, not a big night, but I'm just like, fuck, I'm not going to have a lot of give and take.
Right.
And it's going to be mostly me.
Do you feel like there's a lot of parallels between teaching and doing stand-up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only difference is when I teach, the kids have to remember the information for a later date.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is, you have to just, I think teaching's harder because you're engaging a room full of 13 and 14-year-olds for 48 minutes.
Yeah.
And you just, and this is like, you're given this task of making something that most of them think's an inane, boring topic exciting and captivating.
Do you go for jokes the same way you would go for
all the time
on stage?
Yeah. I always joke with my buddies that I do 5 sets a day, 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely, it's been good with repeating jokes because if I get one class to laugh, I'll tell that joke in the next 2 classes.
Wow, that's really good. Your stand-up kind of prepares you for school, and your school prepares you for stand-up. I'll just check the time in case you're.
Oh, no worries, bud. We got like 20 minutes.
Okay.
I used to be a teacher too, actually, but it was for like 4-year-olds. So I mean, it was pretty easy to hold their attention.
Yeah.
Just like pick out like a storybook or like a coloring book or just do whatever. So.
Yeah, I'm finally hitting that age where I'm no longer the young teacher. Like there's like a 15-year gap. So it's like, yeah, Mr. Fidler.
Yeah.
Because my first couple years I was 22.
Right.
So I was teaching kids that were like 3 years younger than me.
Yeah. That's always weird too.
Definitely weird. But it's nice. I like having that barrier.
Okay.
And I really like the fact that I can kind of use my comedic talents in class. And I do a whole thing on birth. On stage where I literally walk everyone through the steps of like pregnancy and stuff. And, I want to incorporate more like educational jokes.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever said something on stage that you've said the same thing in a classroom?
I probably have. I know I've thought of jokes and just kind of been like, haha, that might work on stage even.
I was afraid, I'm sure, I mean, since you've been a teacher for a while, this probably hasn't happened. I was afraid at one point when I was doing speeches in school and doing stand-up that I'd accidentally tell my jokes during the speeches and accidentally, like, switch back and forth.
I'm more afraid that I'll get too into the joke aspect of it and I'll no longer be teaching.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just be doing a stand-up set, which tangentially can happen sometimes. And I used to be afraid when I was younger that I'd drop foul language in front of the kids. Yeah. So you'd be like, fucking A, right? And she's like, oh, wait, I'm wearing a tie right now. This is teacher, Mr. Fidler. Or teacher Ben, they don't call me Mr.
That's
Fidler,
actually a problem I have every day because I curse so much. And I have to try to, like, we were just in the Disney store and I, like, had to think before I said every word. It's really difficult, actually.
I've gotten better. I used to work for a bunch of guys that didn't tolerate swearing on the landscaping crew.
Oh,
so they'd say like flippin' stinkin' instead
of on the landscaping.
They were landscaping.
Yeah, they were my boss's landscaping. So like
oh my God,
that was actually a major rule with them. It was like one of the only ones is just like no foul language even if customers aren't around.
Oh my God.
That got me really good at censoring myself. So I'd start to just skip the bad words, like I'd still say them.
Right.
So like, oh my God, the other day was a nightmare, man.
Like,
all this bull came up, and this
it's like watching
chick
a movie
was just
on
being
TNT.
all the time. She screamed at my face, and I just wanted to tell her to go herself.
Wow, that's funny.
And
that's funny.
I started doing that with my kids, but they were like, "You just swore." I'm like, "No, I didn't." I saw your lips moving.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That's a tough one. But did you, when you were younger, what was it like being like 3 years away from the other students?
Oh, so weird.
Did they just talk to you like another student?
Did they not respect you?
Yeah, the first time I tried to discipline a senior, he turned to me and was like, "Man, I got a brother older than you. Why the hell do I have to listen to you?" And I was just like, because your brother doesn't teach here.
Yeah, technically I'm in charge.
Yeah, it's like trying to come up with reasons, just like, I've got a brother your age. If he wasn't listening to me, I'd punch him in the fucking throat.
Exactly.
Bitch.
It's exactly like that for me right now. I'm in community college, and she's older than my teacher, so it's like, how do I?
Yeah, it's just like,
Even to teach college, like, if you're college age, like, it's so strange.
It's pretty weird.
A couple of my friends were thinking of getting masters and moving up to college and, like, working on PhDs, and I was like, I don't want... Like, that gap would have to widen again.
Yeah.
Because it is so much harder.
And that would take a long time for that gap to
widen.
Right,
it's not like I've built a reputation. Kids know kind of where I draw the line. And, like, what's cool, what's not. And I can only imagine when you add in the fact that, like, college kids are just
Yeah.
like adults as well.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know if I could deal with dickhead adults like I do with dickhead kids.
I have a problem with authority figures in general,
Not
and
that
for
I think
someone like for someone my age who's in charge telling me what to do, it's like I do not know if I'm able to take that.
Yeah.
Kids in college are the biggest dickheads ever because they don't have to raise their hands anymore.
Right.
They'll dispute the teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced that so much being in school.
It's also that, like, when I remember when I went from 5th grade to 6th grade, I was like, I'm an adult now. Like, I'm in middle school.
Yeah, totally.
And then you get there and you look at an 8th grade and you're like, oh my god, they're so grown up.
Yeah.
And then you get in 8th grade and you're like, 9th grade is going to be the shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm finally a grown up.
Always.
And you get there and look at seniors and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, these people are adults. They've finished puberty.
Yeah.
And then, senior year of college, I remember going to college as a freshman. I was like, why do people hate freshmen? Like, we're adults just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And senior year, I'm looking at them like, who's letting these drunk babies run around
Yeah,
campus? Like,
it's still weird to think
children.
that, like, 18-year-olds, are kids. It's so strange.
But
it's just always...
I feel like at a certain point you just realize all adults are kind of just faking it as far as being adults.
Yeah.
Everybody. Because you realize when you're 20 or whatever, when you were little, you thought that was an adult.
Right.
But then you get to 20, you're like,
and they
no,
had
this
all
is
the
nothing.
answers.
Yeah, but you still just want to have fun and
I remember
go driving or ride bikes.
I got in an argument with my old man when I was like 12. And I was like, yeah, you're just a bad parent. And he turns to me, he's like, you think I've done this before?
That's
this is my first time
point.
being a dad. And I just remember, like, I could feel my mind just go like, and I was like, holy shit. I'm his first kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how, like, every day he wakes up and he's like, well, let's see what happens today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a weird point when you realize your parents don't have all the answers.
Right,
They're learning just like you.
He was just like, dude, it's not like I had a test kid like 10 years ago and I'm like, all right, well, once he gets to middle school, he's going to act like this.
Yeah.
Once he gets to college, I'll have to pay for that. And
It's very strange. They're not experts.
yeah, it just blew my mind once that bubble of, like, perfection was,
they're
like,
real
popped.
people.
Scary. Was that scary to you or what? I mean, how did you feel about that?
I think it was just surreal. Like, it was just so weird realizing that the person who basically controlled my life was doing everything, like, off the cuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had no idea.
And then you realize that, like, that's the sign of adulthood is you can handle day-to-day stuff.
Exactly.
You roll with the punches.
You just have to
plan.
go for it and just deal.
Right. But I remember he said that and, like, I just stared at him like,
Yeah.
what? Like, I couldn't, he stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't believe it. I was
Great
just
line.
like, wow, that is insane.
As a so-called adult now, do you feel like whatever you do is what an adult does, or do you feel...
I feel like adult is slowly getting stretched later and later.
I agree with that,
Like, late 20s now, I'm always like, oh, I'm not 30 yet. 30's like adulthood.
Yeah.
You know? But my parents I was 5 by the time my dad was my age.
Yeah.
My mom was my age. So, for her to have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Totally. My
at 27,
grandparents had kids at like 18, and I'm like,
that
I was
blows my
a
mind.
baby.
We got a puppy last summer, and at points I was just like, it's too much.
I
can't do
know.
it.
Ooh, yeah, that's how you know if you can handle a kid. Yeah.
Just working your way baby steps, man. Just working your way up.
So I actually have some more jokes here. We kind of went off script, and that's
You
good.
have more jokes or questions?
Questions. My bad. They're not much of jokes. Speaking of school, were you a class clown in school, would you say?
Yeah, that's probably the other hardest thing is I am all about the rules now and kind of a stickler for even the little ones.
So you have to be
Really?
like
And
kind
I
of
was a
addicted to what you were,
I was a huge pain in the ass for most of my teachers in high school. Like, I've got names. My mom's told me that a couple started crying during parent-teacher conferences.
Oh my god.
When they found out they had my brother. Like, I can't handle another one. She'd have to, like, talk him down.
Do you
Like,
think,
no, he's not the same. Like, he's much quieter.
Do you think any of this is, like, karma if you have, like, a shitty
Definitely.
kid in your class?
I actually remember looking one of my high school English teachers in the eye and being like, if I'm ever a teacher, I'll let you, like, punch me in the face. Like, I'll never be something as shitty as a no-good high school teacher. My first day of teaching, I was just like, man, I really hope I don't run into that guy because I think it's hard.
The thing is, like, do you feel like that's very confusing because you kind of know what it's like to be that kid. So it's kind of hypocritical if
do you
you're
have,
just
like, an
come on,
understanding?
settle down, and you weren't that kid at that age.
I try to kind of. It's definitely a double-edged sword that I'm seeing both sides of now, because the kids definitely think I'm an old man who doesn't know what he's talking about, and I definitely see the kids as like idiots. But then I think I was that same they're just being teenagers. But as that gap starts to widen, you get more of like, what do you know? And I'm like, I know everything.
Yeah.
And you realize like, no, I don't. This is kind of me flying by the cuff. But I feel like I have a lot to offer them because I can definitely. My dad said the same thing. He's like, I was a screw around.
Yeah.
I dicked around in high school, and I always regretted it.
Yeah.
And I did fine, got to college, but now that I'm older, I can definitely look back and go, yeah, I could have done better.
Yeah,
you could have done
sure.
better. Would it have led you to the same place? I mean, now you do stand-up. Would you have done stand-up if you were like a by-the-rules kind of kid?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a chicken and egg question. Like, which came first, the class clowning or the comedy?
Yeah.
Because I've always been kind of a ham. And, like, my old man and my grandmother, I think I get, like, the storytelling, like, the entertaining from them. Because when they're in groups or families, they'll just shoot the shit with friends. And it's, like, these crazy stories that they elaborate. And, like, everybody in my family always, like, busts on each other for, like, stuff. And, like, we joke around a lot. But, like, I was 14. Oh, no, I was probably, like, 12 or 13. I was 12. And my dad took me to see George Carlin with my friend John.
Oh, my God.
And they stopped us at the door, and they're like, Mr. Carlin doesn't like anyone under the age of 14 to see his shows. My dad's like, no, they're fine. They're both 14. This is my son and my nephew. I don't remember. He started talking about snappers a lot, which I was like, at the time, I was like, okay, that's a vagina. But I didn't really think it was that funny at all.
Yeah.
And then he did like 10 minutes of clean material and fart jokes, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
But I left that. That was the first time that I left that, like, knowing what I saw. I was like, all right, I just saw one of the masters.
Yeah.
And from that day forward, I was pretty much like, I want to be a comedian.
Oh, so it was seeing that performance of George Carlin that really got you.
Yeah, that was the one that flipped me. Like, I'd been into comedy because I'd listened to my dad's rapping Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah,
oh my God, I've heard something about that.
We just heard that for the first time like a month ago, and it was ridiculous.
What is it? Is it a rap album by Rodney Dangerfield?
It's his stand-up, but he opens with, like, a rap song, and it's just him on the cover in, like, a sleeveless t-shirt with an old 80s boombox.
It's so amazing.
It's classic. It's awesome.
Well, I guess because rap was the new thing then.
Yeah, it was. It really was, like, the edge.
So
and and then in high school when all my friends were going to see bands, I was seeing comedians. Like, I saw Lewis Black.
Very cool.
That's cool.
Dane Cook, Bob, Saget.
Oh, wow.
Jim Brewer, I saw like 3 times.
Love Jim Brewer.
I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Got to see Carlin really again when I was a senior, once I was older.
Oh my
and I was
God.
like, this is so good.
You're so lucky.
Brian Regan.
Brian Regan's very funny.
Saw him twice. Cosby.
Wow.
You've
seen some of the greats.
Yeah.
Are there any comics that have died that you wish you could have seen while they were still alive?
Rodney Dangerfield. Just to kind of, like, to be able to see him back in his heyday would have been crazy amazing.
When did he die?
Not that long ago.
2004 maybe? 2000.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in there. I remember there was a quote online that I had in my Facebook profile because I just couldn't. I was just like, God, he's still got it. They were wheeling him in for heart surgery, and someone asked him, like, Mr. Dangerfield, do you know how long you'll have to recover? And he said, if all goes well, 2 weeks. If it doesn't, I can't. He just said, like, he makes some total joke about, like, if he doesn't know what he's doing, I'm dead. And I was just like, shit, man, like, they're wheeling you in for massive heart surgery, and you're still dropping,
so
like, just off the cuff.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
It's just so natural.
That's amazing. That's like, I've heard Gilda Radner was like that, too, with the whole cancer thing.
Yep. And that's, like, Gene Wilder, Gilda Radner, the original. For a while, and at the end of high school, I was obsessed with SNL. Like that was my thing. Like I just wanted to be on SNL. I read the books. I watched all the original TV shows, like the first 5 seasons, back to back to back.
I always felt like that's like the best, and I heard the auditions are the worst.
Some of them are not funny at all, and you wonder why they took them.
No, I heard the auditions are bad because you're in a room with like executives and like Lorne Michaels and nobody's laughing.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're just analyzing you the whole time.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I don't see how
you don't know if you're doing. Well, it's an incredibly hard job.
That's probably one of the
so
things. Though,
yeah.
I felt like that was one of the problems with Last Comic Standing too. The way they would do that, it's just like 3 people performing. They might chuckle like, haha.
I have heard them laugh on that. It's totally different. They literally don't laugh at all, and you're auditioning for the biggest show ever.
Yeah.
Comedy-wise, that was probably like the thing that like that and Carson were what made you.
Yeah, definitely.
Big,
especially if Carson called you over to sit down, then that was.
Yeah, that was Drew
it.
Carey was talking about that.
Yeah.
On, I think the Nerdist about like he was one of the last guys to get called over by Carson and how epic that was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
some people it's just he just says and that the great whoever Jerry Seinfeld everybody or he might call him over
and be like sit down and talk to you and that was it, man.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about somebody who was gonna be called over but they didn't know it and just went back.
Oh,
and
my
I guess he was nervous. Maybe next time.
Wow.
I don't remember who it was, but
I would have probably run back up and be like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I made a mistake. Please put me on.
Open mic starts at 8:30.
Yeah, open mic's kicking off in about 5 minutes. We'll go out and do the rounds.
Wrap this up.
It was fucking awesome, man. Let me know when it goes up. I'm psyched.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. This has been great.
It's great talking to you.
Yeah.
I learned a lot more than I knew about you.
Rock on. Yeah, it was fun, dude.
I don't know how to turn your fucking.
We'll definitely have you on ours if we figure out what the hell it is.
Cool. Ben Fidler, everybody. Anything you want to mention? Long Boys Comedy?
LongBoysComedy.com. Open mics at Puck every Tuesday, and we've started 2013 with headliners every Thursday. Local and national comedians from around.
Very rad.
Cool.
Around the U.S., New York, Philly, stuff like that.
Wow, very cool. Check that out.
Check it out, yeah.
All right.
All right,
Thanks, Ben.
Peace.